All right. Hello, everybody. I am live. We're going to be talking about attachment styles today. It's a pretty big topic in the healing world, and there's some good stuff that's taught when it comes to attachment styles. And there's a lot of really unhelpful and or unnecessary stuff that's taught as well. And the way that I see attachment styles is the way that I see most things that are taught in when it comes to healing, when it comes to relationships, and that is it's good and useful to talk about and to do work on. But if you do not understand polarity and you don't understand polarized communication, then any healing, any shifts, any work that you do when it comes to attachment stuff, right? Insecure attachment styles and avoidant attachment, all that stuff, it's going to be really challenging. It's going to be very limited in what you can do. And I'm going to give an example of this. Let's see. We got 14 people on. We'll get more people on, but yeah, let's dive into it now. So I'm going to give an example here. So this is going to be pretty classic. So an anxious attachment style, right? So a woman is, and we'll use a woman as an example. A woman's really anxious, has a lot of stories that come up around, my man's not attracted to me anymore. I'm going to be abandoned. He's going to leave me, blah, 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 right, going on in her head. And so she's running on a lot of anxiety because she's got an anxious attachment issue, anxious attachment trauma that she has not healed from. Now, a lot of what's taught when it comes to healing attachment stuff is, you got to be aware of what's going on, right? That's good. You got to do journaling stuff. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Really developing that awareness and being able to see what you're doing, see what your patterns are, your triggers, all that kind of stuff. And then it comes to, okay, what else do you do to actually shift the pattern? And then we get into the communication stuff, right? You start shifting the behavior patterns. And one of the big ones is is expressing, well, we'll say needs, and we'll call it feelings, except that it's communication that's not actually going to, not typically not going to end up in a good result. So I'm going to give an example of this. I've just been reading a few things, what people teach. So expressing feelings and needs. For example, now I'm just reading this out on my computer. For example, you might say to a partner, I feel hurt when you multitask when I'm talking to you. I feel loved and connected when you focus on me during our conversations. All right. So there's a lot of issues with this. There's a lot of issues with this. Now, there's a lot of issues if a man's saying it to a woman. There's also a lot of issues if a woman's saying it to a man for very different reasons. But it's both very depolarized communication. So I feel hurt. First of all, hurt is not a feeling. That's actually blaming a man, that's judging a man, but putting a feeling statement in front of it. It's a very common thing that women are taught to say. And there's no situation where a man is going to be inspired to give a woman what she needs when she says that, right? Because he's being energetically led very subtly. I'm not going to get into the details of why that is, but that's essentially what's happening. So he's not going to feel inspired. Now, he might do it, right? Like, he doesn't, a good guy isn't going to want his woman to be feeling terrible. But no matter what he does, it's not going to come from inspiration. It's going to come more from a sense of obligation. And that's if he's like a really good guy who's really trying hard, all of that stuff. But typically women who have anxious attachment are not going to be attracting those really more healthy men. And so typically they're not going to get a healthy response from a man. And it's not going to result in a behavioral change, right? What she really needs is more connection with the man, maybe some reassurance, some clarity, some better leadership, right? Like making it clear for her, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. You don't have to worry, so that she can relax, so that her nervous system can shut off, and she knows she's not going to be abandoned. But the way that she communicates that's not going to inspire a man to do that. And so the patterns are going to typically continue. And if the patterns continue, well, it's going to be really hard to heal any anxious attachment, isn't it? How is that going to be shifted? Because she's continuing to repeat the pattern. Now, if she learns feminine communication, if she learns how to truly be vulnerable and saying, I feel hurt, there's no vulnerability in that, ladies. Sorry, no vulnerability in that at all. It might feel scary to say it. Not saying it doesn't feel scary, but feeling afraid of something is not the same as being vulnerable. Totally different things, okay? So she needs to learn feminine communication. She needs to learn how to truly communicate in a vulnerable way that is going to inspire a man to step up and start, being a man, right? Because imagine this. If a man was actually like really devoted, solid leader, using masculine communication, all of the stuff that we teach, he'd be able to help her, his woman, heal any anxious attachment relatively quickly, because he would help her shift out of all of her unhealthy patterns, teach her feminine communication. He'd be able to give her the reassurance that she needs, lead her into her feelings, all of that fear, anxiety that she's essentially compelled, like the feelings of anxiety are compelling her into controlling the situation. And he would lead her into truly letting go, into truly submitting, into truly opening up, into all the things that's going to help her heal really quickly. But she's not going to be attracting that kind of guy. And then she's not going to be attracting that kind of behavior from the men that she does attract. And so it's just going to keep her locked in that pattern, right? So, it's great to learn attachment style stuff and do the journaling, the self-awareness, all that stuff. But if you don't have a program, you don't have a plan to shift your behaviors, you don't know where you're actually shifting your behaviors to, right? Which for a woman, that's going to be feminine communication. It's going to be letting go of control. It's going to be learning to be vulnerable. All the things that are going to inspire a man to step up and lead a woman to help her feel more safe, to let go of all that stuff. If she doesn't have that plan, she doesn't know where she is shifting to, it's going to be really limited. All right. So I'm going to do a intermission at this point. And for everybody that's watching, we got a masterclass tomorrow on this communication, right? If you've got, whether you have any attachment style issues or not, whether you're secure attachment or anything outside of it, learning this communication, both for men and women, it's going to help you get so much better results with any other healing stuff that you're doing. Or if you're not doing any other healing stuff, okay, that's fine. You don't need it. You can shift all of this just by learning polarity, learning polarized communication, women learning how to truly feel fully, men learning how to fully lead and censor yourself. And that's what we're going to teach you. That's what we teach you. So masterclass is tomorrow. There should be a link in the on the live, at the top of the live. It's polaritymasterclass.com, polaritymasterclass.com. And it is just over 24 hours from now, if you're watching this live. If you haven't attended a masterclass yet, you've got to sign up for this. It's $47. I mean, that's the price of a meal today. You're eating out, or 2 meals at most. You're going to end up saving so much time, so much of your life, so much needless suffering by learning how to communicate, right? Learning polarized communication. Nobody else is teaching this anywhere. People talk about, feminine communication. No. we're teaching real feminine communication. Everything else I've seen is this softened masculine communication that's really not going to inspire men. Being a softened man doesn't inspire a masculine man. Being a feminine woman inspires a masculine man. Okay, that's what we help women do. Now let's talk about men here. So I'm going to get back to this attachment stuff. So let's go into this example that I brought up before. I feel hurt when you multitask when I'm talking to you. I feel loved and connected when you focus on me during our conversations. Man, this is even worse if a man said this. I cannot. Well, I can't imagine it because I actually did talk sort of this way before to my wife. It's, yeah, man, I was really misled. I can't believe it. And that was only a few years ago. So this is definitely, so for a woman, right? A woman in her feminine, she's submitting to her man's leadership, right? That's what a polarized relationship is. A man is telling her what he wants her to do in a very loving way, not subjugating way, not controlling way, but with love, with care, but with dominance, right? With strength. And if he says, I feel hurt when you multitask when I'm talking to you, I feel loved and connected when you focus on me during our conversations. I'm going to try really hard not to just make fun of this. I mean, a woman has nothing to submit to. Okay? He's not directing her to do something. He's not setting boundaries, telling her to stop doing something. He is just sort of telling her his feelings in a blamey kind of way, and kind of making almost a suggestion of, this is what would make me feel loved and connected. Okay, so there's nothing for a woman to submit to. So if a man, and we'll use the anxious attachment again as an example, he's got anxious attachment stuff, and then he's talking like this. Okay, well, a woman might do what he needs to feel loved and connected, but she's not going to be submitting to him. It's not going to be out of true respect, right? He's not commanding respect from his woman. It's not turning her on. In a depolarized relationship where a woman's not fully in her feminine, there might be part of this that a woman likes in a way because if he's kind of connected to his heart, but man, it's really not meeting her needs, and it's going to be kind of obligatory whatever she does, especially if this is something that he's communicating all the time, right? Now the relationship is shifting to where she kind of has to be his mother. Mommy, my feelings are hurt because you did this, and this is what I need. So she's stepping into that kind of role, which is not going to feel good for her. And she's going to find more and more, I kind of just want to hang out with my friends. Or, I kind of want to hang out with Anthony from work, because he doesn't tell me about how his feelings are hurt. He just tells me what to do. And I like that. And then before you know it, she's becoming more and more distant. He's got more and more anxiety that's coming up because of his attachment wounding. And it spirals out of control and eventually leads to a breakup. Oops, my monitor just turned off. So does that heal the attachment issue? No, it doesn't. It just worsens it, right? It just like with the woman, it keeps him stuck in these patterns. Keeps him stuck in these patterns. He's not shifting anything. He might be building this awareness, but without the polarized communication, without learning how to lead his woman, very little is going to shift. Polarity is the, what do you call it? It's foundational to all of this healing stuff. If you don't have the polarity, you don't have the polarized communication, you're just wasting decades of your time. You're wasting decades of your time trying to heal this attachment stuff that could have been shifted so much faster. It's really unfortunate that this stuff is not taught with these other healing modalities, these other healing theories. Same with with the avoidant attachment stuff too, right? We'll briefly talk about women. Under everything that a woman communicates and everything that a woman wants to do, right? If she's going into avoidant stuff, there's going to be feelings there. There's going to be feelings there. It could be irritation, could be anxiety, could be a whole bunch of different things. Right? There's actually going to be a lot of anxiety, at least deeper in if she can't feel it right away. But if she's not getting in touch with those feelings and she's not expressing them, then she's going to tend to stay stuck in her pattern, right? And the same with men, except for man's not going to be expressing his feelings, though he should certainly be aware of them, right? Because polarized communication and polarity, a man's still very aware of what he's feeling. He needs to be, right? If he's going to lead his woman, if he's going to be good at leading his woman, he needs to be very aware of what he is feeling, and especially what he is feeling when he's interacting with his woman. Because what should he be feeling when he's interacting with his woman? Centeredness and love and care, devotion. And if he's feeling anything else like irritation and anger and all other things, he's not leading in a healthy way, and she's not going to respond in a healthy way. So, and quick intermission here again for any men listening, but also any women listening. Masterclass. Join the masterclass. Okay, it's tomorrow. Join the masterclass tomorrow. PolarityMasterclass.com. $47. Learn how to use this communication to start shifting the problems that you're experiencing in your love life. Doesn't matter if you're single. Doesn't matter if you're a man. Doesn't matter if you're in a relationship. Doesn't matter if you're a woman. As long as you want your relationship to be better, this is going to really help you. It's going to really, really help you. All of your problems stem from a lack of polarity. Now, that's a really bold statement, right? All of your, okay, if you're blind and deaf, okay, you got different problems. But in general, it's all because of the level of polarity that you have in your relationship, the ability of a woman to let go, open up, receive, be vulnerable, use feminine communication with a man, the ability of a man to step up, to take charge, to lead his woman with devotion competently, knowing where he's leading his woman. It's not just about leading his woman on dates. It's about leading his woman into greater levels of femininity and greater levels of opening up, greater levels of being vulnerable, greater levels of submission, right? Does a man know how to do that? No, almost definitely not, right? What men are taught that today? Basically none. What women today are taught how to submit in a vulnerable way, communicate in a respectful way, truly respectful way to a man, in a way where she is still maintaining her self-worth as a woman, right? Feminine self-worth, because it's not about being unequal to a man. It's not about being less than a man. So it's equal to a man, but in very different ways, in a very different role. How many women are taught that? Pretty much none. So this polarity stuff, the thing is, when you are fully polarized, by the time that you, and this is theoretical, right? Because you can always become more dominant as a man. You can always become more radiant, more vulnerable as a woman. It's a spectrum that is indefinite, right? You can go further and further along the spectrum. I can definitely become more masculine, right? Every man I know can become more masculine. Every woman I know can become more feminine. My wife can be more feminine. So it's indefinite. But let's just say you're like super dominant, right? Or super vulnerable, feminine in your self-worth. By the time that you get there, right, you don't have an attachment issue anymore. You've healed it. You've healed it. Because you can't have done this work, shifted all of your behaviors, all of your communication, stepped fully into your self-worth, your feminine self-worth as a woman or masculine self-worth as a man, and still, internally have all of these issues. right? By making the external shifts. Here's what happens when you make the external shifts. Let's use a man as an example. You learn how to lead a woman competently with devotion in your heart all the time. You're fully emotionally centered, and you just practice it over and over and over again until you get there, and you're just fully competent. And then your outer reflection shifts because you've got a woman who's fully submitting to you. She's fully in her self-worth. She's expressing everything vulnerably, all that stuff. Well, by that time, to make those outer shifts, you would have had to shift everything internally. You would have had to, because the inner is always going to reflect the outer, and the outer is always going to reflect the inner. Now, of course, theoretically, you could have done it where it's like a man who learns how to lead, but to try to be attractive, to try to manipulate his woman into liking him, into staying with him, right? So he like learns all this stuff, but for the wrong reasons. So it becomes like a masculine costume. It's actually his anxious attachment style that is that he has a costume over top of, basically. Okay, yeah, you do that, then you haven't healed internally at all. And unfortunately, and same thing for women, right? These femininity costumes that a lot of women are wearing, they haven't actually done the work. They've just built this costume that seems feminine over top. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to actually get expert support on this, right? Expert coaching. Actually learn this from people who know what they're talking about, because you can learn the concepts, you can learn the communication, and you start applying it incorrectly and for the wrong reasons, you can completely, do this so inauthentically and cause yourself and a relationship so many problems. There's so many ways to do this wrong that isn't often talked about. And that's a really big issue, right? If you do this properly, you're going to heal any attachment stuff that you've got going on. You're going to heal anything that you've got going on, right? That actually might be a bit too far again, because there might be deep psychological issues that this won't shift. But in general, this is going to shift almost anything that you've got going on internally if you do the outer work. And the great thing about doing the outer work is it's really like the action steps, the actionable steps, the program that you're following. It's very clear when you do when you're focusing on some kind of inner work and you're just like, feel whatever. You don't even know how much you're really healing. You might think you're healing a lot. You go to your therapist every week, every couple of weeks, and talk about your mother, and you talk about your father and all your childhood issues and stuff, and you have a bunch of cries and have all these insights, and you become a black belt level navel gazer, all these great things. And how much do you end up healing? Well, you don't even really know. Can you have a functional relationship yet? Probably not. You could spend decades in therapy and still not be able to have a truly healthy, sustainable relationship, especially not a high level one where it's like a never ending honeymoon period, which is a real thing with polarity, right? That is real. You're not going to be able to shift that. Whereas when you understand masculine and feminine communication and polarity, you know how to communicate as a woman, you know how to communicate as a man, you become competent in that. You actually you know what the outer shifts are, right? It's like putting together IKEA furniture. You just follow the steps. I'm simplifying this a bit, but you follow the steps, and by the end of it, there's a nice piece of, there's a shitty piece of IKEA furniture. That probably is going to fall apart in a year or two, but it's built, and you know that it's built, right? Because this is an external thing that you can see. It's either built or it's lying on the floor, and it's not built at all, right? And you just follow the external shifts. You get better at putting together IKEA furniture. Well, it's the same thing with masculine and feminine communication. You're either following the steps, you're learning how to communicate in this beautiful way, polarized way. And at the end of the day, your relationship gets way, way better. And you can see how you're showing up in a very different way very quickly. If you're moving through your fears and discomfort, you're seeing very quickly how your partner is showing up in a different way very, very quickly. Or nothing's happening. All the boards and IKEA pieces and screws and stuff, they're still on the floor. Nothing's happening, right? You're going to see that these shifts are happening, and they can't not happen. You do this work. If you actually do this work, you move through your fears and discomfort, everything has to shift. There's no other way. There's nothing else that can happen. So if you've been stuck in this, I call it the healing hamster wheel, self-improvement hamster wheel, for years and years or decades, even worse. We have a lot of clients, a lot of students that have literally been doing this for decades. I still don't have my dream relationship. Well, it's time to learn from us. It's time to learn masculine and feminine polarity, masculine and feminine communication, and stop wasting years of your life doing this the really slow, inefficient way that's going to end up being really painful with lots of mistake making. How about you do this the really quick way, the 1 year or less way? All right, learning this, making the shifts, moving through. I'm not going to say it's not easy. Doing this work is not easy. It's scary as hell. I'm not selling you a magic pill. It's nothing like that. It's still hard. But once you understand where you're going, once you understand the communication shifts you need to make, the behavior shifts you need to make, it's just a matter of moving through the fear and the triggers over and over and over. And the shifts happen way, way faster. And a very good way to take that next step, if you're like, whoa, this sounds really great, this sounds really promising, maybe this is the answer, it is to go to polaritymasterclass.com. The website is on the top of this video, and join our masterclass. It is tomorrow. It's in just over 24 hours. And it's going to be a lot of this, but what I'm talking about, 2 hours of me and my partner Mark Benet talking about this and doing role plays. We're not just going to talk to you about it. We're not just going to talk to you about the problems. We're going to go into masculine and feminine communication, show you what it's all about, outline it, give you examples, and then we're going to role play it. Show you what it looks like as a woman, show you what it looks like as a man, how it's going to actually solve problems really quickly, how it's going to solve attachment issues really quickly. And it's going to blow your mind. If you haven't been to one yet, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to shift so much for you. We have people who've done master classes, just the master class, right? Not even joining any of our higher programs, who've made really amazing shifts in their love life, in their relationships, or whether they're single. And that can be you, but you got to make the choice. Got to make the choice. I'm not going to procrastinate anymore. No more excuses. I've been following this guy, Zach Rohde, for months and months, and I haven't done a master class yet. I always have an excuse. How about you don't have an excuse anymore? How about you just do it? $47. Go to polarymasterclass.com, and I will see you there tomorrow. All right, everybody. You have a wonderful day.